Liberia because of a brutal civil war. And we landed in Ghana. Liberia had one of Africa's most brutal civil war. But let me give you some background about Liberia. Liberia was established by slaves that were freed from America and went back to Africa and established that land. Our capital city, Monrovia, is named in honor of the fifth president, James Monroe. We have in Liberia, we have Louisiana, we have Mississippi, we have Georgia, and those were places the slaves lived. So when they went back to Africa, and when they found Liberia, they named places like that. My name is Collins. That's not an African name by no means. In Liberia, the largest hospital is called the John F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital. We have the Richard A. Nixon Elementary School. We have the George W. Bush Bridge. Things are named after things they're used to. But because of that Civil War, and I bet you all have seen the Firestone tires, right? Firestone tires, Bridgestone tires, BF Goodrich tires. I'm sure some of you have driven on those tires and never thought, hey, where is this material coming from? Liberia. Liberia has the world's largest rubber plantation, and this is called the Firestone Plantation Company. My parents worked for that company. That's where I grew up. I grew up in Firestone because my dad was a civil engineer and my mom was superintendent of schools. So, yeah, we grew up in Firestone. And next time when you're driving on a Firestone tire or BF Goodrich or Bridgestone, think about Liberia. So anyway, Liberia got engulfed in a brutal civil war because the president at the time, William Talbot parents were from North Carolina. They migrated to Liberia, and William Talbot was born, and he was he was the president of the Baptist World Alliance. He was a Baptist minister, but he got murdered during the war, and that's how Liberia got engulfed into a civil war. And so my wife and we fled Liberia. When I fled Liberia, I was 92 pounds. I was dying of starvation. My wife was 86. It was tough. We landed in Ghana and we didn't know what to do. But before we left Liberia, my mom gave me $5, gave my wife and I $5 and said, go, God be with you. And so when we landed in Ghana, we had $5 between the two of us. And so I had to use the $5 to stop a cab because the company I worked for had a branch in Ghana and I didn't know where it was. So I just told the cab driver, I said, hey, I'm looking for this place. And he was able to take me there and they were able to take my wife and I in. But after about 3 months, my wife said, hey, this is not life. I want to go to America. I said, how do you suppose we do that? She said, well, let's go to Montana. I said, hey, lady, make up your mind. We ought to go to America or we go to Montana. We can't be going everywhere. She said, but Montana is in America. That was the first time I heard of Montana. And so, but the reason my wife was so bent on Montana, my wife came to Montana as an African exchange student, and she graduated from Helena High. And so when she went back to Liberia, that's all she kept talking about, Montana, Montana, Montana. So anyway, we didn't know how to come to Montana or come to America. So my wife contacted her host family, and her host family started the ball rolling to get us over. So the host family contacted Carroll College. It's a local Catholic college here, and they were able to award my wife a full nursing scholarship. But I couldn't come, so I had to register with the United Nations as a refugee. And in the meantime, my wife came, and just before she came, we realized she was pregnant. And so I had to register as a refugee with the United Nations High Commission. And my wife came and we were apart for 2 years and 7 months. The first time I saw my daughter, she was 2 years old. So my wife delivered without me being here. And so eventually I passed all the screening criteria, the screening tests. I mean, it is coming into this country as a refugee. I will tell you straight, that's the most strenuous checks and balance you can ever get because I had to go through the State Department testing. I had to go through Homeland Security. I had to go through INS immigration. Then we had to do medical. Then we had to do prints. By the time I was allowed to come to this country, it was 2 years and 7 months later. My daughter was 2 years old already. So finally I came and I didn't have anything to do. I was a refugee, and refugees come into this country when they enter the country, they're legal. So I was just walking up and down the streets, in the morning, I would just try to get myself familiar with Helena. And I remember this day I walked up to the Capitol building and I went upstairs the stairs. And to my right, I saw the office of the Secretary of State. To my left, I saw office of the governor. And I decided to go and visit the governor. As I got to his secretary, his scheduler, she said, "Do you have an appointment?" I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Would you like to make one?" I said, "Yes, sure." So I'm writing my name down, and this gentleman comes behind me and said, "May I help you?" I said, "No, I'm here to meet the governor." He said, "Well, I am the governor. My name is Mark Roscoe. What can I do for you?" So I dropped everything. I said, "Oh my God, I just came from Africa 2 weeks ago. I thought I should meet you." He said, "What part of Africa?" I said, "Liberia." He said, "Oh, where the slaves went." I said, "Yes." He said, "Come on in." So I walked in his office. He said, "So, Mr. Collins, what do you do?" I pulled out my paper copy resume because I traveled it everywhere I went because I was looking for a job everywhere I went. And so I pulled out my resume and handed it to him. He said, "Oh my God, you're a teacher." I said, "Yes." So he pressed his intercom. He said, "Pat, would you come in?" And this lady came in. He said, "What can we do for Mr. Collins?" And this lady said, "Oh, Intermountain Children's Homes looking for counselors. Why don't you apply and use the governor and myself as your references?" I turned to the governor. I said, "Can I do that?" He said, "It would be an honor for you to use me as your reference." 3 days later, got an interview. 5 days later, I started my first work. I arrived February 20th, February 17th in Montana. I started working March 20th. 1 month after getting into this country, I started working. And while I was working, I got a call from this lady who's asked, she wanted me to subscribe to the local newspaper. And I told her, "No, I receive the paper every day for free. I don't have to pay for it." She said, "What do you do on the weekends?" I said, "Family time." And this lady said, "Why don't you join the National Guard?" I said, "I'm not an American." She said, "You don't have to be." And so for me, the kind of person I am, I'm very inquisitive. She gave me the name and number of a recruiter. I immediately called the guy up, and before I knew it, I was going to South Carolina to boot camp. And I've retired from the military. I spent 22 years in the military and retired. And so I'm back in just as I was retiring. My son was a junior student in at the University of Montana. And he comes home this day and says, "Dad, I think it's time for you." I said, "Time for what?" He said, "Let's go outside. I don't want mom to hear." So we went outside. He said, "Dad, I think it's time for you to get into politics." I said, "Oh man, you're crazy if you think I'm getting into politics. I know nothing about these people thing." He said, "Dad, it's not these people. It's our thing now. You're part of these people." So I said, "I don't even know the first thing to do. What do I do?" He said, okay, let's compromise. I said, okay. He said, invite three of your friends over with the invite three couples over with the, friends and wives, and for dinner. And then after dinner, you broach the idea. If you're not ready, they will tell you. So I called three friends over for dinner. After dinner, we started having drinks, and I said, "Look, guys, I'm thinking about getting into politics, and I just want to know what your thoughts are." And then one of the ladies just exclaimed, "Oh my God, this is fate." I said, "What are you talking?" She said, "Just last night we were thinking about asking you to run, and now you're telling us you want to run." So I said, "Oh, okay. So what do I need to do?" And the lady said, "The first thing you need to do is convince your family to get on board." You remember I told you my son, so I said, "Oh my God." Remember my son called me outside to talk, right? Because he didn't want his mom to hear. My wife hates politics. And so when they told me I had to convince my family to get on board, I called my son. I said, "Hey, man, I got a task for you. Why don't you tell your mom this is what we're doing?" He said, "No, Dad, she's your wife. You tell her." And that was not an easy task, believe me. But anyway, we had to vote. In my house, we vote for everything. My daughter was in the Navy. She was out of the country. And we called her up because the four of us have to vote. And my daughter, myself, and my son, Bliss, the three of us voted for me to run for mayor. And my wife voted against it, but she lost the vote. So we're very democratic, So she had to fall in line, so to speak. And so my friends, they showed me the way, they guided me. I went and registered. I decided, I thought this was a tough one because I was running against a 16-year incumbent, a well-loved person. I like the guy myself. So I knew I had an uphill battle. But I didn't relent. When I put myself to it, I put my whole being into it. We started knocking on doors. I mean, we did everything, banging on doors. I mean, I still remember the first time, and it's hard. It's hard because you don't know how you will be received. And one of the things my son, when he told me, "Dad, I think it's time for you to run," when he told me, I did like this. I said, "Man, you're forgetting where we are." He said, "Dad, don't worry about it. Everybody knows you, and they're not thinking about your skin color anymore. They're looking at the content of your character." And so I still remember the first day I went knocking doors. This lady, it was a Saturday. This lady is sitting up on her veranda and she's having coffee at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't know what to do. I'm standing before her fence and I said, "Good morning, ma'am." And she said, "I'm not buying anything." I said, "I'm not selling anything, ma'am. My name is Wilmot Collins and I'm running for mayor." And she said, "Come on upstairs." And I went upstairs and she wouldn't let me go. I told her everything about me and what I plan to do. And we are taught that every house you go to, you spend about 2.5 minutes and then you go to the next 2.5. This lady kept me for 15 minutes. She forced a cup of coffee on me. And then finally she said, "I like what I hear. Now, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm taking you to my neighbors and I'm introducing you to my neighbors." And this lady took me around. So that was the best 15 minutes of my campaign. She took me around to her neighbors and introduced me. But sometimes you're praying for I am running the campaign, but I'm praying not to win. All right. Because I didn't know what I was doing. But when we had to do our first quarter reporting of how much money we have raised, I almost tripped doubled the incumbent funds. And then I called my team together. I said, guys, these people are serious. We got to get serious because it looks like they want us. Because why would they donate if they don't want you? Anyway, we got serious and started knocking doors, getting on interviews. I never shied away from anybody who wanted to talk to me. I always tell people I leaned Democrat because of one person. When I was fleeing Liberia from the war, one person was going back to Liberia to bring peace, and that was Jimmy Carter. That's why I'm a Democrat. Because Jimmy Carter, when I heard the former president was going to Liberia to bring peace, I'm like, oh man, this is who I want to be like. Even though I could never be like Jimmy Carter, but I mean, he inspired me. And so when I came, everybody was shocked. Why you're a Democrat? You don't know anything about our system, and you already know what you want. And I tell people it's because of Jimmy Carter, man. So anyway, we had debates. The Republican women invited me to their luncheon. I went there. I spoke. I never shied away from any event. On the day of election, I took my phone, turned it off, took my wife's phone, turned it off, and I refused to we had our watch party at a Mexican restaurant. And I was nervous like hell because I didn't know what to think. But the first set of results started coming in around 10 o'clock. And my son came running, Dad, 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 you're leading, you're leading. And I say, by what? He said, 37. I said, oh, damn. 37 votes is anybody game. But the whole night, I never went below the incumbent. By midnight, I got my first call from U.S. Senator John Tester calling me saying, congratulations, Mayor-elect Collins. And I was like, they're still counting the votes, Senator. He said, well, this is not my first rodeo. You got this. And then the whole place was quiet because they had seen that it was a 202 number. That's an area code for Washington, D.C. So everybody was quiet while I was talking. And then they were there. Who was it? Who was it? I said, if you promise not to cheer, I'll tell you who it was. But we have to be cautiously optimistic. We can't be crazy. And they all were quiet. Okay, tell us. And I said it was the U.S. Senator John Tester congratulating us, and the place went wild. They started popping open the champagne, smoking cigars and everything. And I was scared because now my people are cheering and they um they are still counting votes. And so the second call I got was from Huffington Post. And the reporter on the line said, how does it feel to make history? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you just made history. So I said, hold on 1 minute. I put him on pause and I called my son. I said, did we just make history? He said, yeah, Dad. I said, what history did we make? He said, you're the first Black person to ever win an election here in Montana. I said, why didn't you tell me this thing? He said, Dad, if I had told you during the election, your head would have gotten big, you would have lost focus. And so we kept it from you. I said, oh, dang. So I went back on the line and I said, yeah, I just realized we made history. It's all, I didn't even know we had done it, but I had to tell the reporter that. So I said, yeah. He said, man, so what are your plans? I said, I ran on three things and I will keep the promises. I promised the people of Helena, Montana, I will keep the streets plowed. I'll keep the garbage going. I will bring awareness to teenage and veterans homelessness, and I will bring about opportunities for affordable housing. And believe it or not, when the end of the day, the results came in, I won by 2 percentage points. Two. And that night, I got calls from everywhere. First thing in the morning, I got a call from the governor. I got a call from the lieutenant governor, but I didn't get a call from the incumbent. And so I was a little nervous because why wouldn't he call me? to concede. So eventually, around 8 o'clock, I just told my wife, come on, we have coffee at Starbucks every day. So I said, hey, you want to go have coffee? So we got up, and just as we were entering Starbucks, my phone rang and I picked it up, and he said, Wilma, this is Mayor Smith. I called to congratulate you. You fought the fight, you won. I want us to meet next Tuesday and talk about transition. I said, it's an honor. I will be there on Tuesday. I congratulated him for a fair fight. And, the rest is history. But I'll be honest with you, I accomplished what I told the people. My platform, I accomplished my platform within my first 2 years. We brought about opportunities for affordable housing. We created what we call the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to ease people who want developers who want to come into Helena, who want to bring about housing. We have funding ready for them. And so yeah, we did what we said we're going to do. So then when I ran for second term, I won by 36 percentage points. I mean, the first term was two. The second term was 36. That means they knew I would do what I said I would do. And we've been doing good work. We continue to receive kudos. I mean, I still remember during my first term, after I mean, the streets were plowed like crazy. I started getting all these letters thanking me for finally plowing the streets. I say it took an African who never saw snow to plow the streets of Helena, Montana. So I collected all the letters and I took them to the snowplow drivers and I said, hey guys, the community loves you. The community thanks you for all what you've done. And I showed them, I think I had like 40 pages of letters. And I said, I'll leave these letters. You can read what they're saying about you. Good job. And then this guy's in the background crying. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. Did I do anything wrong? He said, no, Mayor, I've been here 14 years and this is the first time I heard thank you. I said, well, the community sees what you're doing and they love it. So, and while I was running for my second term, I got this people started petitioning me to run for U.S. Senate. So I put my hat in the race for a short while, and then the governor got in the races. So then I had to pull back. But it's been a pleasure serving the people of Helena. They're great people. And yeah, but the one thing I always leave with people is that, sometimes we have to take risks, but you must take good risks. The second thing here is you must get involved in your community, whatever it is. You must get involved in your community. And my third guiding principle is step outside of your comfort zone. I know when we get comfortable, we tend to be complacent, but people do make history by being complacent. Take risks, get involved in your community, and step outside of your comfort zone. With those three things, the world is your oyster. It's open up. You do what you want to do. So that's my political journey. And I will open up for questions. If you have questions, I'll take them.
Sure. So I guess my question is, how has your experiences, like your general life experiences as a refugee, but also as a first generation American, influenced the policies or initiatives you currently work on or have worked on as mayor?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I know what it is to be homeless because I was homeless. And so when I became mayor and noticed that Helena did have a homeless problem, I made that a priority. We supported the various shelters. We got money. We put money into the shelters. We brought the awareness to the community because a lot of the people in the community just didn't see, or if they saw it, they turned their heads the other way. But we put it right in front of everybody. We have a problem. We need to solve it. This is our community's problem. And I was a spokesperson for all my policies, everything I tried to do, I went up front. We created the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to bring about affordable housing. We did that. We supported God's love. And, another thing I did that went on notice with that people didn't know that Helena had a teenage homeless problem. I put that forward. What I did, it was easy. I went to the school, found out, and that was the first time I ever heard the word couch surfing. Couch surfing. The counselor said, I went to the school and said, "Hey, do we have homeless problems among the students?" He said, "Yes, Mayor, we have a lot of couch surfers." So I said, "Can I talk to them?" And he said, "Well, we can put it out there, but it's up to them if they want to talk to you." I was able to speak to a couple of them, and they would spend the night in a friend's home. They would go when the parents are gone to bed, and then they will wake up before the parents get up. And I'm like, that's not a way to live. So I told the guy, I said, we can do better. And I spoke to the parents. I said, hey, this kid is in school and he's lost, but you can help. And the parents, instead of the kid hiding anymore, they accepted him as part of the family until they graduated. So that was another thing. I put my face out there. So yes, because of what I went through and who I am, I was very resilient. I mean, nothing is too big and nothing is too small. I'll tell you the story of this homeless man. When he saw me with my flyer going from door to door, he came over to me. He said, I want to support your campaign. I said, thank you. I appreciate it. And he took $1 and handed it to me. And I said, I think you need this dollar more. He said, no, if I took if I take it, I will smoke it. I think you would do better with it. And he handed me that dollar. I still have the dollar on my mirror. I've never used that dollar to remind me that there are good people out there. So yes, um, Anika, I appreciate your question.
I'll ask the next question. My question to you is like, you had to build a campaign full of unity, like you had to unite your community. So like what strategies like do you use to build trust and foster collaboration within like your community? And I know like you mentioned how you weren't afraid to go to anybody, like any person was a friend to your campaign, like you accepted everyone. But is there like more strategies to it than that?
You see, I always tell people you have to have the truth on your side. People will know when you're lying to them. I'm telling you. So for me, when people say things about me, I challenge them. If it's not true, I'll challenge them. Like I remember before I went to meet with the Republican Women Caucus, one of them was online saying Wilma Collins is going to tear up our country and he's going to make this country a refugee country and bring a lot of undocumented people into this country. That's what the person was saying. And so I emailed that person and said, can we have coffee? And she said no. So I said, okay. And I didn't know, I knew her face. I didn't know anything about her. So when I went to the Republican Women Caucus luncheon, I saw her there and I called it up. I said, ma'am, I know you were very concerned about me bringing this and that, but come on, I'm open to all your questions. I have never ever said whatever you said about me. I challenge people. I'm not afraid, but I'm not going to say I'm rude about it. I'm very courteous, but I'll just call it out like it is. You have to have the truth on your side. You can't tell one group of people something and you lie to another group of people. It will bear. And so my strategy was I will play fair. And I'll be honest with you, there were lots of things that my team brought to me. They say, if you publish this, we got the election. We got it. But it was not, it was dirty. And I told them, no, I promised myself I'll be fair. I promised myself I'll be clean. And they said, man, it looks like you don't want to win. I said, I will win, but I'll win the right way. And I turned down a lot of dirty nonsense against the incumbent. The man I was running against, I turned it away because I promised myself I won't do that. And so, and I know I won by 2 percentage points the first time, but I won anyway. So, I didn't have to lower myself, go to the gutter, go to the dirt to win an election. Because remember, the people you vying for votes, they're your neighbors. If you win or lose, they're still your neighbors. So you have to remember that, and you got to be careful, And so, but my team were grew great. In fact, I'll tell you about my staunchest supporter ever. Her name is Charlotte. As I was going around, I went to this home, and this little girl said, "Hello." I said, "Hi." She said, "My name is Charlotte, and I'm 5." I said, "Hello, Charlotte. I'm Wilmot, and I'm an adult. What can I do for you?" She looked at me and said, "Would you be my show and tell?" I said, "Sure, Charlotte, I'll be your show and tell." And I started walking away to go to the next house. And this little 5-year-old girl yelled out and said, "What's my school?" I didn't know. She said, "How will you be my show and tell? You don't know my school?" 5 years old. She challenged me. So I went back. I said, "Charlotte, I'm sorry. What's your school?" She said, "You have to come to Bloom Montessori Monday at 10 o'clock." Now, there was no way out. I went to Bloom Montessori Monday at 10 o'clock, and we spent 20 minutes talking about pets and cats and dogs. But that meeting, Charlotte went with me to every door I knocked on. I mean, she turned down Disney World to knock on doors with me. Yes, her father was going to take her, and she asked her father to postpone the trip because she was going to knock on doors with me. 5 years old. Charlotte has one of these watches that has 3 numbers in it. I'm one of the numbers. She calls me, "I'm just checking up on you. I'm just checking up on you." Nobody's too small. Nobody's too big. I'll tell you about a 98-year-old lady. She said she goes to my church. From a 5-year-old to a 98-year-old. Her name is Margaret. Margaret said, "Wilma, do you know my age?" I said, "Yes, Margaret, you're 98." She said, "Are you aware I've been voting for 80 years straight? 80 years since I was 18. I never miss a vote. And I've only voted for a Democrat once." I said, "Whoa, who's that lucky dude?" She said, "I'm looking at him." Yes. I said, "Why me, Margaret?" She said, "Because you honest." That was her reason. In 80 years, she voted for one Democrat, and that was me. Nobody's too small. Nobody's too big. So, yeah. Question?
I can take the next question. Um, so just when you were first elected in, what was it, 2017, right?
Yeah.
Montana had a Democratic governor, a Democratic senator, and now it's shifted as it has in other parts of the country. So, how do Democrats in places like Montana sort of rebuild, or what have you done in your campaigns to that could be implemented at a wider level?
And I'll be honest with you, I was asked that question by a Republican senator about a month ago. So I always tell people, she said, this is what she said. So how do you feel with a Republican or Democrat in a Republican state? I said, ma'am, the people voted for me. There were Republicans that voted for me. There were Democrats that voted for me. And I work for the people. I don't work for the party. So the party didn't vote me in. The people voted me in. And when I gave her that answer, you know what the next thing she said? We have room in the Republican Party for you. But the issue here is that I'm for the people because sometimes I get so darn pissed off with Democrats. I get pissed off with Republicans. But my values align more with Democrats. And so, but I know we live in a red state, deep fire engine red state. But I will tell you this, because I continue to maintain myself as an honest person, as a person for the people. If I were to run for another election today, I'll win. And get this. Remember, I told you about the lady who said I was bringing a lot of undocumented in here and on Facebook. She's spearheading a campaign to have me run for a third term because she heard I decided I will not run for a third term. And she said, no, we need you. A Republican is spearheading a campaign to keep me. What does that tell you? It tells you that, hey, if you're for the people and if it's good for the people, go for it. You see, sometimes we have to, because of the situation we find ourselves in, we have to be there for the people, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Pray tell me, how can affordable housing be a Democrat or Republican issue? How can homelessness be a Democrat or a Republican issue? So the issues I choose to take care of are issues that are close to the people. So I'm telling you, if I were to go again, I'll win again. But I have to slow down. So another question.
So I actually wanted to ask, so like I feel like so something I've also experienced myself is like, the whole like you're not American, why would you get involved or like with like the American government and stuff like that? Like what would you even know about that? So like what's your advice to like young immigrant or like first generation Americans who are interested in getting into like politics or public policy but feel like discouraged by other people?
Milan, I will tell you this. This is my home. This is my country now, whether I want to or not. But even before this country becoming my country, like I said earlier, I'm from Liberia, a country that was established by slaves that helped build this country up. So I'm just coming back home. But on a more serious note, when people say that you're just an immigrant and you want to get involved, yes, I'm an immigrant, but this is my country. And I want to be able to say I can participate in because hey, like they say, if you're not at the table, you will be a menu, you will be the menu, right? They say if you don't participate, when I make decisions for you, you have to accept it. But what I'm saying here is that I want to be a part of that decision making. So I get involved. Remember, I gave you three guiding principles. Take risks, get involved in your community, and step outside of your comfort zone. And I'll be honest with you, Getting into politics was totally outside of my comfort zone. Holy crap, it was totally outside. And I did it. You can do it.
Okay, definitely. Thank you for that. Are there any other um questions?
I'll ask the question really fast. So I'm currently living in Texas right now, and I do a lot of advocacy work within my community. And I guess I just wanted to ask, from your experiences, like what advice would you give to help people see kind of the impact of these issues on individuals instead of kind of taking a party side of it, because what I have experienced a lot of difficulty with is because things are so polarized right now, and it can get really defensive really fast. It's hard for people to recognize the impact that certain issues are having on individuals in the community instead of just reverting to their traditional party stances, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I would tell you, Carly, um, like I said earlier, you must have the facts. You must have the truth. You must have that on your side. Because when you're talking to people and you can quote the facts, the truth, you're satisfied with yourself. And there's no need to argue about anything. Let them hear the truth and you back away. At least because you can go, we can do this thing all day long. You would say something, and I would say something, but just one person at a time. If you can call someone and say, hey, let's meet, let's talk, let's have coffee. Do you know how many cups of coffee I've had? I've had a lot of coffee because I was doing it one cup at a time. And when the person is one on one, they don't have the outside influence or the mob mentality influence. You can really get through to people. Have coffee, talk to them, say, hey, this is what it is, A, B, C, D. And in just a calm voice, just like that. It's only the two of you now. You're not arguing or anything. Just tell them the truth. Say, this is what's happening. Because I know in Texas it's pretty, in fact, I think it's deeper red than Montana. So, so, um, and there are lots of undocumented, and people tend to throw hate, they just throw things out there. But the fact tells us that undocumented people, they pay taxes, so they pay taxes just like you and me. They the possibility, if I was living in Mexico, the possibility of me coming into America and becoming an undocumented is high. I didn't have that opportunity. I don't know if I should say opportunity. I didn't have my way didn't happen that way. And people always tell me you went through the right way. Why everybody can't go through the right way? I didn't have a choice. All right. I fled Liberia and went to Ghana. Now, did I enter Ghana the right way? No. I didn't have a passport. I didn't have visa. I didn't have anything. Enter Ghana as a refugee. Didn't enter any other way. So, did I enter America the right way? Yes, because I had to go through this process. But believe it or not, my 2 years and 7 months that it took me to come to this country was nothing. I just met a guy in Missoula, Montana. It took him 17 years. He's 34. Half his life, he's been going through the process. Now, when people hear that, they say, man, I can just go across the border, man, instead of waiting for 17 years. So, drink coffee or tea. That's what I'm doing, drinking tea, and just, you know, be polite about it and just talk your heart out. Tell them the truth. Have the truth on your side, and you will win people over. Any other? Well, guys, I tell you what, I really appreciate you having me as your speaker. And I want you to know you can call me anytime. I'll be more than happy to get back on with you. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. So that's it?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate all
Thank you
the
so
questions.
much.
Thank
Yes, I
you.
appreciate the
Thank you,
questions.
Mayor.
And hey, one last thing. If you ever find time to come to Helena, Montana, I'll be your personal tour guide. So come to Helena. Come in the summer though. No, I ain't getting out in this winter. This cold is crazy. I'm not kidding you. We've had like 20 inches of snow. I'm looking at all the snow outside. It's like crazy. So anyway, take care, guys. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.